Let's move to the Portland City Council race, which saw incumbent Joanne Hardesty lose to challenger Rene Gonzalez. A team from the Oregonian studied the race and found something super interesting. Both the rich on Portland's west side and the poor living on the east side of the city voted for the challenger, Gonzalez. Take a look at the map the Oregonian created based on vote counts. Hardesty's votes are pink there in the middle. Gonzalez are green on the left and the right side of the screen. Now, they each got votes from every part of the city, but this shows the parts of Portland where each won. The darker the color, the bigger their margin of victory. To help break this down, I talked with the Oregonian City Hall reporter Shane Dixon Kavanaugh. He dug into it for the paper. And by the way, if you've not read his story, you should look it up. It's super interesting. Here's part of our discussion about the rich and the poor voting together.
Gonzalez was able to run up substantially high margins east of 205 and also west of the Willamette River. In both those parts of the city, Rene won votes or outperformed Commissioner Hardesty almost 2-1. So almost 66 to 33 on both the far east portion of Portland and on the west side. Meanwhile,
can I interrupt you there? Because I think that's fascinating. You wouldn't think those two groups, or I wouldn't, would vote together. One's the more affluent, the other's kind of the not as affluent and working class.
Well, this is actually sort of an interesting thing that we've seen play out in Portland previously, but also in other parts of the country as well, in major American cities, where there have been coalitions that have helped elect more sort of centrist or moderate Democrats in big American cities.
Now, when he says coalition, he's talking about an informal coalition. I don't think there's been any meetings between the two sides saying, hey, let's unite and go for Gonzalez. But really, they didn't need to be. Those two groups are fed up over the same issues, crime and problems generated by homeless campers.
Well, what I would say is that, first of all, what you just said is correct. I mean, this was an election that centered around two issues in particular in Portland: homelessness, which you mentioned, and also crime, both in terms of record levels of shootings and homicides in the city, but also a whole host of lower level property crimes and livability crimes that have really have grown in size and scale as well, whether we're talking about stolen cars, stolen catalytic converters, and other sort of low-level crimes. And in both those cases, East Portland has been disproportionately impacted in terms of crime in the city, but also in terms of sort of unsanctioned camping we've seen.
So on the east side, lower income folks have had to live with the day-to-day impacts of crime, things like getting their car stolen and gun violence and more. And they, along with voters on the west side and also many in the city's inner neighborhoods, are all saying enough, time for a new direction.
One of the things that we have thought about in our newsroom in terms of sort of looking at this election overall, I mean, clearly with this particular race, the contrast between the two candidates, both in terms of their policies, their professional backgrounds, where they live in the city, could not be more stark or different. But also, Portlanders right now are very unhappy with City Hall and local government. I mean, a high level of dissatisfaction.
And he says they took that out on Hardesty, who was the only person up for election from the Portland City Council. Although, you could also argue that voters sent that same message when they decided to change Portland's form of government, essentially throwing all the elected officials out in 2 years.